Actually as the Mujahideen, and then he brought, and well, the people that followed him brought, the Reagan-Bush administration, brought over a front man called bin Laden from Saudi Arabia to front up the Mujahideen and their resistance to the Soviet Union occupation, and eventually they became the Taliban and what is now claimed, although it's a major exaggeration, Al-Qaeda. And ironically, he's come to power with his backing and mentorship, and he's now massively increasing the number of troops in Afghanistan because he wants to beat the Taliban that started out from this guy in terms of the violence that has followed. He is a CIA frontman. No wonder they haven't found him. And Brzezinski is obsessed with this part of the world he calls Eurasia, around the Caspian Sea where there's massive gas and oil reserves. And look who's around there. Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, which America wants to start a real conflict there, which leads into China because they want a third world war involving China, Russia, Europe, and America. And all these other countries are all in this area, which Brzezinski has been writing about for years, calls it Eurasia, and he says you have to control that, basically, if you're going to control the world. Here is one of the major Illuminati frontmen of the last 50 years. Mr. Change has just appointed him an advisor. And then, a few weeks ago, the National Security Advisor to Obama, James L. Jones, an official position, spoke at this conference on security policy in Munich, and he says this about someone who's just a backroom kind of advisor, Kissinger. Thank you for that wonderful tribute to Henry Kissinger yesterday. Congratulations. As the most recent National Security Advisor of the United States, I take my daily orders from Dr. Kissinger, filtered down through General Brent Scrowcroft, who's an underling of Kissinger, and Sandy Berger, who is also here. We have a chain of command in the National Security Council that exists today. So, how many people in America know that Kissinger is controlling foreign policy and national security? Now, this guy Brzezinski, Obama's kind of mentor and control figure, created this organization called the Trilateral Commission with this infamous reptilian bloodline, the Rockefellers, that guy David Rockefeller. And he's now a major player in Mr. Change's administration. Now, this is where the Trilateral Commission fits in. It's a series of organizations around this secret society, the Round Table, which was created in Britain in the latter part of the 1800s. And its first head was a guy called Cecil Rhodes. And over the years, these different organizations have been added to this network. The Trilateral Commission in 73, that one, Royal Institute of International Affairs, 1920, Club of Rome, the environmental manipulation arm of this network in 1968, Council on Foreign Relations 1921, and of course the United Nations after the Second World War, and the Bilderberg Group in 1954, officially anyway. And these work as one unit to manipulate this agenda of centralization of global power and the surveillance society. To show you where Mr. Change's policy provider is coming from, this is what Brzezinski wrote in 1970. The technotronic era involves the gradual appearance of a more controlled society. Such a society would be dominated by an elite unrestrained by traditional values. Soon it will be possible to assert almost continuous surveillance over every citizen and maintain up-to-date, complete files containing even the most personal information about the citizen. These files will be subject to instantaneous retrieval by the authorities. 1970. And it's happened. Why has it happened? Because it was the agenda way back then and before that it was going to happen. So we think Obama's in control as a president, but it goes through him to Brzezinski and many, many other people in the cartel around him, and to a person here called George Soros, the infamous global financier, who's been a major funder of his campaign. This might get controversial, I don't care, it needs saying. Around Obama is the most extraordinary network of Zionists. And this is a key one. He's White House Chief of Staff, Rahm Emanuel. He's an American citizen, but he served in the Israeli army. And his father was a member of a terrorist group called Irgun that helped to bomb Israel into existence in 1948. Now, one thing I want to make clear here, because this is lost in the translation on purpose. Zionism and Jewish people in general is not the same thing. What they want is for us to believe that, so that in talking about Zionism, which is a political system and a political belief, is the same as talking about Jewish people. It is not. And how many have seen the number of Jewish people who oppose Zionism? When do you ever see that on the news? Who don't believe it's right and don't believe it's part of Jewish history and all the rest of it. It's never seen. What's sold to us is all Jewish people believe in Zionism. Rubbish. But because they've equated the two, then you get called racist when you talk about Zionism. I don't care. It needs saying, and I'm going to say it. If people don't like it, we're racist, they can bugger off. I'll tell you what Zionism is. It is a political system created not by Jewish people, but by the Rothschild family. Used to be the Bauer family, until it became the Rothschild banking dynasty, created by a guy called Mayer Amstel Rothschild in the 1700s, early 1800s. And they created Zionism, not for Jewish people and a homeland for Jewish people, but as a means of creating this agenda, by creating constant conflict in the Middle East. Now, they paid for the Knesset, the Israeli parliament building, built by the Rothschilds. Most of the early settlers from Europe into Israel, or Palestine as it was paid for by the Rothschilds, all part of the game. It was the Rothschilds who paid for the Israeli Tel Aviv Supreme Court building, which is full of esoteric symbols, Illuminati symbols. And no one has had more in this scam than Jewish people in general, who've been led to believe that Zionism means one thing when it's going to hang them out to dry. In fact, Zionism and its political belief system under different names in the past, or no names, has hung Jewish people out to dry so many times through history to advance an agenda. These people couldn't give a damn about Jewish people. They just use them as a front to hide behind. Because the Rothschilds aren't Jewish in that sense at all. They're one of these hybrid bloodlines which infiltrate all peoples. So Rahm Emanuel is a massive manipulator and controls Obama's every thought. And alongside him in the White House is a guy called David Axelrod, another Zionist, extreme Zionists I'm talking here, who ran the entire election campaign for Obama and now dictates what appears in words on his autocue screens, his teleprompter screens. If you see Obama, right from the election campaign to today, he never looks straight there. He looks there, he looks there, he looks there, he looks there, whatever he's doing. And the reason he's doing that is because either side of him are teleprompter screens with the words that he's reading. And these words are written by, or written by, David Axelrod. He is so welded to these teleprompter screens, because he appears to be an intelligent man, but he's just an actor, that on St. Patrick's Day this year, Obama thanked himself for inviting everybody to a St. Patrick's Day gathering because someone else's script had been left on the teleprompter screens when he went up to read. He's now known by more and more people in America as the teleprompter president. And he's reading other people's words. Now, one of his major funders, who raised about $500,000 for his election campaign, is this man, Louis Sussman, extreme Zionist, who was vice president of Citigroup, which